Here are the trigonometric functions sine and cos. Now, as you can see, the domain for both functions is that x belongs to all real numbers. The range of both functions is y belongs to all real numbers, but is greater or equal to -1 or less than or equal to 1. Now, what is the period of both functions? Now, the period is the length of one complete cycle. So it would be 2 pi. You see, for cos, one complete cycle is completed in 2 pi, and one complete cycle is completed in 2 pi. Now, the amplitude is the amount by which the graph travels above and below its midline. So for both functions, the midline is at 0, and you can see that it travels 1 above its midline here, which is the maximum for both functions, and below is -1, so it's 1, which is the minimum. Now, you can also see that cos function is simply a vertical translation of pi over 2 units to the right. Now, how are these functions graphed? Where do the points come from? For sine, you can see that when we have the first point, sine 0, you simply replace the x with the 0. So y would be equal to 0 when x is 0. Y is equal to 1 when x is pi over 2. Y is equal to 0 when x is pi. Y is -1 when x is 3 pi over 2. And y is equal to 0 when x is 2 pi. All these units can be found on the unit circle. Now for cos, we have when x is equal to 0, y is equal to 1. When x is equal to pi over 2, y is 0. When x is equal to pi, y is equal to -1. When x is 3 pi over 2, y is equal to 0. And when x is equal to 2 pi, y is equal to 1. Now we have the tan function. As you can see, the domain is x belongs to all real numbers, but x cannot equal to pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, and so on. And the range is that y belongs to all real numbers. The period, as you can see, is pi, and there is no amplitude. Now we have the functions, the transformations of the functions. So A and D will transform the function vertically. B and C will transform the function horizontally. And you can see that A is either a vertical stretch or compression by a factor of the absolute value of A, and if A is negative, then there is a reflection with respect to the x-axis. And note that the amplitude for both the sin and cos function is in fact equal to the absolute value of A. Now B is a horizontal stretch or compression by factor 1 over B, and if B is negative, there is a reflection with respect to the y-axis. And the period for both the sin and cos function is 2 pi over B. So if you have the period and you have 2 pi, you can solve for B by rearranging for B. And the period for for tan is pi over b. Now, C is a horizontal translation by C units, and D is a vertical translation by D units. Now, how would we graph the transformations? Say we have the function gx is equal to 3 cos 2 times x minus pi over 4 minus 1, where x is greater or equal to than 0, but less than or equal to than 2 pi. We can simply graph the function by using this formula, by applying the transformations to each individual point. Now, if we apply this formula to the given function, we'll have x over 2 plus pi over 4 and 3y minus 1. Now, we can see that it's a cos function, so we have the points 0, 1, pi over 2, 0, pi over pi, negative 1, 3 pi over 2, and 0, and 2 pi and 1. And we can simply just apply the formula to each individual point, and we'll be able to graph the function. Now, how can we find the amplitude, period, horizontal translation, vertical translation, maximum and minimum points, and the range of a given function? Now, first, let's factorize this function into the aforementioned form. So we'll have a, b, c, and d. Now, remember that the amplitude is simply the absolute value of a, so the amplitude is 2. The period is 2 pi over b, so we have 2 pi over 2, which gives us pi. Now, the horizontal translation is simply equal to c, which is negative, so it's negative pi over 2, or 2 pi units to the left. The vertical translation is simply d, so it's 8. The maximum is d plus the absolute value of a, so it is 10. The minimum is d minus the absolute value of a, so it's 6. And the range is y, and the range is that y belongs to all real numbers, but y is greater or equal to 6, but less than or equal to 10. Now, how can we find a function based on a graph? Well, to find a, we can simply use the formula maximum minus minimum over 2. So we have 6 minus negative 2 over 2, which is 4. The period, b, is 2 pi over the period. So we have 2 pi divided by 2 pi over 3, which gives us 3. And c is simply the horizontal translation, so it is we can observe it on the graph, and it is pi over 6. And d is the midline, so which can be calculated by max plus min over 2, which is 2, which gives us the following function.